Hi everyone, how are you doing? My name is Simon, and today I take an in-depth look at the GEWA G9 Pro 6 eDrum kit, and together we'll find out if this one is even better than its competitors at that price range. And in case you like these in-depth reviews, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. First, I'll demonstrate the hardware and the pads. Then we'll take a closer look at the G9 workstation with its 10-inch touchscreen. In between, I'll play my top 10 sounds, and I even cooked up my own personal killer drum preset kit. So get yourself a cup of coffee, make yourself comfortable wherever you are, because this thing has a lot to offer. GEWA teamed up with DW to build this stable and massive rack, and DW is well known for its high quality hardware, which shows us how much GEWA values such things. It's a 14-inch snare drum, 10-inch, 12-inch, another 12-inch, and a 14-inch tom, and an 18-inch kick drum. And the toms and the snare drum are dual zone pads, which means you get a sound on the head and another one on the rim. And on the snare drum you actually get three sounds. You have the snare sound on the head, the cross stick sound, and with a higher intensity you get a rim shot sound. The drum heads are double ply mesh heads made by Remo especially for this drum kit and feel pretty natural. We have a 14-inch hi-hat, two 12-inch crashs, and an 18-inch ride cymbal, and these pads are 3-zone pads, which means you have a sound on the bell, on the bow, and on the edge, with a choke function. The so-called G9 workstation has a lot of cool features and is finally a module that is pretty much up to date. It's a computer with a multi-chip architecture, a 10-inch touchscreen display. It's well organized, well designed, and easy to use. You've got quite the amount of ins and outs, like XLR stereo master out, 8 direct outputs, SPD-IF connection, a mix-in connection, MIDI in and out, USB MIDI, a foot switch, and you can add 4 auxiliary pads to the module. And at the front you also have a headphone input and a USB port for your USB stick to import samples or your music or what else you want on that module. When you power on the module, the first screen you see is the easy mode screen. And on here, on your left, you have basic settings like the metronome tempo right here, the mix input volume, the headphone volume, and your master out volume. And you can change these values by tapping on the specific parameter you'd like to change. and then scroll up and down. Or you use the 4 buttons on the left to change the tempo, mix input, volume, and the master out volume. And then in the lower left, you have the metronome start and stop button. And next to the metronome, you have that button that adds the accent on the one of the metronome. Then next to that, you find the different sets and preset kits, and you can change those kits by pressing the minus or plus button. Or you just tap on the name, and then you have the preset kits menu pop up, and then you can choose the set by scrolling up or down, sort it by different categories like preset drum kits, user drum kits name and category, and then you just double tap on the drum kit you want to play next, or you click or tap the load button in the lower left. On your upper right, you have the 4 auxiliary pads, and you can play finger drums on the module by tapping on the different instruments. You have the mixer, where you can change the volume of each drum. For the toms and cymbals, you have the grouping function, and when you activate it, you change the volume altogether of the toms or the cymbals. On your lower right, you get into the advanced mode. At the advanced mode, you have 7 different categories. It's performance, kit editor, effects, trigger settings, general settings, and the tools. Let's start with the performance mode. In the performance mode, the first thing is the drum kit. In there, you can choose, again, the drum kit by inserting it with a number. For example, the Raggae kit is number 16. You can just type in the number and then you get to the Raggae kit, or you do it like in the easy mode screen, tap on the name or the plus and minus buttons, and then you get to different kits. In the next section, you have the kit options. And on your right side, you can choose what kind of snare style you'd like to have. So the rim shot style means that if you hit the rim, you only hear the rim shot sound. Then when you tap on cross stick, you only have the cross stick sound. And then there's the crossfade function, and this means that when you play soft on the rim, you hear the cross stick sound. And when you hit harder, you hear the rim shot sound. Next one is the song player section. There are no playbacks on the module, but I have this USB stick, and on there is a playback. So you just put this one into your USB port, click on Song Select Empty, then on USB, and ta-da! Here's my playback. And then you just push play, and you can drum along to your own music. What I really like is the various speed function. When I play the music one more time, then I can speed it up or slow it down. This is a really cool function when you want to practice to music, but the drum part is still too hard. So you can slow it down and practice it slow, and then you can turn back to the normal tempo. In the last section of the performance mode, we have the metronome. It's pretty obvious. You can change the tempo by tapping on it, and then you type in the number, like normal tempo is 120. And then you have your time signature, where you can choose different time signatures, and the interval, which is actually the subdivision. So you have quarter notes or eighth notes, and then you can start the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Add the accent on beat 1. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you don't know the exact tempo, you can also tap it with a tap function. And then you see that the number of my metronome changes. And then you have also the visual mode. And your metronome settings, where you can change the metronome sound, or the tap channel, which is really cool because you can also tap the tempo with now the kick drum. You see that I can tap the tempo in right here. Next one is the kit editor. The first section in the kit editor mode is the channel select, which speaks for itself. You select your channel where you want to edit or change the sound. And you can either do it by tapping on the drum on your screen, or you turn auto select on and just hit the pad you'd like to edit. So you see, now it's tone 2, snare drum. I recommend to turn auto select off because I like to change values and parameters while I play the drums, so I directly hear how it changes. And with auto select on, it changes the pads all the time, and then you change the value of that pad that is activated at the moment. So turn auto select off, and then you don't have that problem. The next section is the instrument select section. And here you also can choose the drum kit and the sound that you'd like to change. So let's select crash 1. So the bow sounds like this, the edge like this, and the bell like this. And now I want to change the sound of the bell. So I activate the bell tab, click on the sound tab, and now you see that the sound grouping is activated. But I just want to have the bell sound. So let's take a right bell sound. So I go on right cymbals, and then I deactivate the sound grouping and take the 22-inch Essentials bell. And now you can see that I have on the bow still the CR Turkish 16-inch bow, CR Turkish 16-inch edge on the edge, and the 22-inch Essentials bell, which sounds like this now. Alright, the next section, you have the mix effect sense. In here, you can change the parameters for the sounds that is now activated. So let's take the snare sound again, and then you can change the volume of the sound. Now you can hear that this is a double layer sound, so you have the second sound unit, which has another sound underneath the main sound, and you can turn that off and on. And back to the mix effect sense, you can change the panning of the drum. The ambient, which is an effect which I'll come back later to. Then you have an instrument reverb and room reverb and multi-effects. Then you have the sound edit function right here, where you can change the tuning and the fine tuning of your main head sound if you have two sounds. You can change the attack of the sound. So let's turn off the second sound edit, the second sound that we can hear the main sound better. So sound edit, and then the attack. Change the attack. Or the release. It's actually the muffling or the dampening of the sound. So I can make the sound super short. or with a longer sustain. The last section of the kit editor mode is the pad equalizer compressor section. And this one is one of my favorite sections. For example, with a kick drum, let's take the 22-inch collector's drum. And then you can add some more low end, which is really cool. Let's move on to the effects section. So in the effects mode, you have the overall ambient volume right here. You can turn it on or off. And in the kit editor, you can also change the volume of the ambient sound for that specific kit. Next effects are, you have an instrument reverb. You also have different preset settings. You can select also different kind of reverb types. And then you have a nice reverb on your snare drum. Let's take the room large one over here. And that sounds like this. Next is the room reverb. Maybe a wooden room. And then in the effects mode, we have a fourth effect, which is a multi-effect. And select the delay, give it a little bit more delay time. Yay! Next section is the trigger settings section. Okay, so the most important trigger settings for us now is the head threshold right here. When we select the snare drum, I chose a very low value because this means that when I play super soft, the sound gets triggered. And the higher the value is, then I have to hit harder to activate that sound. And especially on the snare drum, this is very important for playing the ghost notes. And when I turn back the value to 1, you hear the ghost notes. The other important function is the curve settings right here. And this is really amazing because with the curve setting, you can adjust the velocity of each pad to your own playing style. So how this works is you have the curve editor right here and it has my curve, my playing curve, Simon 1. Wow. But when I play a groove, this felt much more natural, like the volume of my ghost notes. So I had to pick a higher level of that. And then you see the velocity curve that fits exactly to my playing. Another thing you actually have to do is to calibrate your hi-hat. And you also do this in the trigger settings, of course. So you select your hi-hat, choose the hi-hat pedal, and then here you have the calibrate button. And what I like about the hi-hat calibration is on the left side you see this little ball, and you can see when I open the hi-hat that it moves up, and when I close the hi-hat, it moves down. So you can really see the motion of your calibration. Open, close. And just a little tip on the side, it's better to close the hi-hat a little bit more than you would usually do when you calibrate it, because at the end you get a much more natural feel of playing the hi-hat open and closed. And how to calibrate it is actually super simple. You just tap on calibrate, and then there's a little tutorial that will guide you through the calibration, and then you see the yellow ball moving up and down. Closed, open. In the general settings, you can adjust different settings concerning your outputs, like your master out, your monitor out, your direct out, and you can also route the signals to the different outputs, which I think is pretty helpful, especially when it comes to studio recording, like the situation I am in right now. So you tap on the routing drums, and you see all your outputs, including the direct outs, and I already made the drum bash preset where you can see that we don't send any signal through the master out, because this is a special thing. We wanted only the effects running out of the master out, so we have better control on reverb and that kind of stuff. And then next to the routing drums, you also have routing others, and this is where you can send your reverbs or multi-effects, a click and a playback, to your different outputs, like the master out, the monitor out, or your headphones. Right here you have the master equalizer and the master compressor, which also works on headphones, monitor outputs. And then you have the Midi settings, which is actually pretty important because you also can use the G9 Workstation as a Midi interface. And the cool thing is that you have two options to record or work with the G9. So the first thing is that you can record audio tracks through this USB MIDI cable. So I go into my favorite DAW, which is Logic Pro X, and then I choose the GEWA G9 Workstation as my interface right here, and then I create 8 tracks because we have 8 direct outs. So, and when I set them to record, that I record the audio tracks, I can route the drums in the general settings menu to the USB MIDI cable, which is here in the presets. You go on DAW out default, and then I can record some drums. And there you can see, let me zoom in a little bit, that we recorded audio tracks through this USB cable. And then we can listen to it. It really works. Cool, huh? The other option you have is you can use it as a Midi controller with your favorite drums VST plugin. For example, the EZDrummer. Works with no latency. So besides all the adjustments and settings you can change concerning your playing and the sounds, you also connect the module via Wi-Fi with the internet, which is important for the shop. There's a GEWA Cloud shop where you can download different preset kits. Then you have a PDF reader, you have a setlist editor, you can import your own samples, you have up to 128 GB of storage. It's pretty epic. Before I get to my personal highlight, let me tell you what I think about this kit. It's super fun to play, and what impressed me the most are these 3 things. The 10-inch touchscreen display, the processing of the already good sounding samples with that 3-band equalizer, the compressor and the effects, and the precise adjustment of the sensitivity of that custom curve. I think that is amazing. What do you think about this drum kit? What did you like? What did you not like so much? Also in relation to the competitors in that price range on the market, please leave a comment and tell me all about it. And now it's time for my personal highlight. I created my own killer drum preset, which is called Simon's Killer Drums, which actually you can download in the video description down below, with all the different adjustments and effects that we just talked about. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when new videos come out. Please leave a comment if you want to see more of those in-depth reviews like this one. Take care, play as much drums as you can, give this video a like, and I see you next week Wednesday in a new video. Simon out.